this is News Now. I'm your host, Joanna Juvelis, and today we're going to talk about the Comprehensive Plan Project. I'm sure that if you live in Belmont, you've heard this term before, and maybe you're wondering, what is this all about? So I have with us today to talk about this Comprehensive Plan Project, our Director of Planning and Building in the Office of Planning and Building in Belmont, Chris Ryan, and the Chair of the Comprehensive Plan Advisory Committee, Alisa Gardner-Todreas. Welcome, both of you.
Thank you.
Happy to be here.
So let's start up with, what is this comprehensive plan all about? Can you give me and our viewers some background? Why do we have a comprehensive plan project happening? I believe, from what I understand, from what I've read, it's to plan ahead for 2050. But why don't we start with you, Chris? You can give a little background.
Thank you, Joanna. So many cities and towns, in fact, most of them have a comprehensive or master plan. It's called one or the other. And essentially, this is a policy document that charts a vision for the future, creates a blueprint for change, and it sort of relates to the physical growth of the town's buildings, streets, and infrastructure. And it creates a policy document that serves as a sort of an inspiration and a mining tool for a range of actions that can be accomplished that fit the community's that vision for that future. So, essentially, it's a great tool. It's not required, but it is certainly advisable to have one, because it creates that blueprint that leaders can look to plan what their projects are going to be for the next year, the next 5 years, and the next 20 years. And you asked about 2050. I think what that allows us to do is have sort of a short-term work program that we can have projects that are ones that we know that we need to work on in short order, and then a longer range work program with things that we know that are coming along, and we anticipate we'll need to do them in the future, but we don't necessarily have to program them right now. So essentially, it's an opportunity for citizens to get involved and to have a say in terms of what that future direction will be.
Okay. Alisa, do you have anything to add to that?
No, I would say, Chris summarized it nicely. It is just essentially a visioning exercise of, where we would like to, we picked 2050 because it was a nice round number. These plans are usually 20 years or so, but 25 gets us to 2050. And it's just a nice way for us to design a future that at least the current residents are hoping to see. And, it's obviously, we're not going to wait until 2050 to implement it, but it's steps along the way of how to realize the future we're envisioning.
And is this the first time Belmont's ever done a plan like this?
No, actually, the last plan that was done, that was actually implemented, is 1963. So it's certainly been a long time. Yes.
That's a really long time ago.
Right.
Did anything happen that was in the plan?
That I wish I could tell you. It's such a long time ago that I'm not even sure that they envisioned that we would have iPhones or self-driving cars. But one of the things that we did, yeah, we did try to adopt and implement a plan in 2010. Unfortunately, it got to town meeting and was tabled, and so it was never implemented and just sort of sat there. So this is the first time we're trying to do a plan since 2010.
Okay, Alisa, tell me about your committee that you are on. What is your committee's charge, and how long have you been working on this?
So the committee's charge is essentially to advance this process, have input. There are 10 of us on the committee. There are 9 chapters involved in a typical comprehensive plan, and it's there's a state template, so our chapters mimic that, although we do have one additional one. But so each member of the committee has expertise in a particular chapter area. So, for example, one of the chapters is on land use. I represent the land use chapter because I am also a member of the planning board.
Yes.
I know that there was a survey recently that went out. Are you able to tell me what the purpose of that survey was, and did you get a lot of response, and how that, how that survey will help with your work that you have?
Really, the survey was, I think, the first opportunity to give citizens a chance to provide what their thoughts are about the direction of the town in terms of things like land use and transportation and open space. Maybe identify things that need to be worked on, things that need to be protected, projects and ideas for how to go about achieving a vision, and maybe an idea of their own vision. So up to, I believe, yesterday, we had almost 900 responses. And it's quite possible that by Friday we could crack the 1,000 response rate, which would be remarkable, frankly, for a community of our size to get that many responses. And it does close at the end of business on Friday, tomorrow. But there will be other opportunities to get involved and other opportunities to, share your thoughts as a citizen, a resident, a business owner, whoever you may be as a stakeholder for the community. And we can certainly tell you about that as we continue to discuss that.
We have also had, we had a public hearing in May, I believe. So that was another opportunity for the public to weigh in and give input. Not as individualized as the survey, because obviously the survey is one person's input and they can say everything they need to. But at the forum, they had a chance. It was a mobile workshop, if you will, where the consultant had the different chapter areas on boards, and people could comment on what they, sort of similar to the survey, but in a more of a group setting. So there was that opportunity. We conducted some focus groups over the early spring. So we have solicited public input that way. And we have recruited a handful or maybe a dozen or so what we're calling engagement envoys. And they are citizens who are encouraging other citizens to be involved in this process, because we do want as many folks to contribute as possible, since the idea is this is a plan for the whole town for the future.
We also have two upcoming public meetings that one should be in September that should introduce a little bit more information to the public about the plan and allow them to give some feedback to us. And then one will be in the spring when we release the final draft of the plan and get feedback on that. We also hope to be involved in some pop-up meetings. I think that the consultants will be going to the farmers market next week and have a table there. And we hope to be at Town Day. We were supposed to be at Town Day in May, but obviously the weather didn't cooperate with us. And so I believe Town Day's been rescheduled for September, and we'll have a table for the project there.
Okay. Will the results of the survey be publicized anywhere, shared?
Yes, they will. I imagine that the consultants will go through it and synthesize it and create graphs and charts and provide word clouds and statements. And I'm sure that the raw data itself will probably be available as well. We're not certainly going to publish that as part of the plan, but we'll probably have it as part of an appendix or maybe a way that you can access it online. But everything of the survey will be available, but the boil down, the summary of it should be available probably in the next month or so.
Okay. Alisa, maybe can you explain a little bit more about the work that your committee has ahead of you, and what the final plan will actually look like or just give us an idea of what it will look like?
So as I mentioned, each committee member was appointed because they have an area of expertise based on the chapters of the comprehensive plan. So to date, right now we've just been sort of a broad brush, the overall trying to solicit public input, but we are now honing in on those specific chapters. So each of us who was appointed based on the chapter headings, we are now calling ourselves chapter captains, and we will be soliciting specific feedback on the drafts that the consultant gives us for each chapter, so that we can really dive in and make sure that everything we want to see included is included, that it makes sense. And like I said, each chapter captain will be consulting with others.
Can you tell me a little bit more about some of the other chapters? I know you mentioned.
Sure. In fact, why don't I just run down them? There's 9, which is kind of a lot, but it's not that many.
Not bad.
So, and it's like I said earlier, it's a state template. I guess I can start with the one chapter that's not in a state template, and that's community cohesion. And we wanted to have that just because we felt like that's all about sort of communication across the town, across opinions, across interests, just a way to, I guess the grand vision of the town is that we have a cohesive vision of what we would like our town to be. And there's obviously different components to what makes up our town and what makes it a great place to live. And we just felt like community cohesion and enhancing community dialogue, having a different opinion, but not having to be disagreeable about it. So that's one chapter. Another chapter I mentioned is land use, that gets to zoning and things like that. Housing, because obviously that's important. And all types of housing, like affordable housing, but whatever missing, what they call the missing middle housing, sort of smaller homes for folks who want to downsize, whatever the needs turn out to be. Housing, this economic development, which there's been a lot of conversation around why that's important. Arts, culture, and history is another chapter. Open space and recreation, resiliency and climate, community facilities and service, and transportation and mobility. So that kind of is the broad brush of what makes a town function, of what makes a town a great place to live. And so those are all the different aspects that our committee will be focused on between now, and we're hoping to finalize this, I guess, the end of the summer 2026.
Right.
Summer, okay. And how will the results of the survey be incorporated into the final plan?
Well, I think that that still remains to be seen. But I think once we see the data, I think we'll have a good idea of where it fits. I'm sure a lot of it's going to be distributed throughout the different chapters. I'm sure there's going to be a section in the introduction to the plan that talks about public participation and input. And I'm sure the survey is going to be a big part of that as well. So I think that there's a lot of ways that information can be, amalgamated and placed in various parts of the plan. But I think we still have to see it before we can really make a final determination.
You mentioned you're working with consultants. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yes, we hired the firm of VHB, which is a firm that has offices around the country, but they're based in Watertown. And their Watertown office is the one that is obviously supplying their consulting team. And they're working with another firm out of New York City that's doing some parts of the plan. We hired them very soon after we started the process, and it's being paid for through a combination of town general funds and ARPA funds from the American Recovery Act. So the total is $200,000, and it sounds like a lot, but that's what a comprehensive plan costs these days.
Have you done these before, Chris, in your past jobs?
Yes, I have. I've been involved in a number of different communities that have either created and adopted a comprehensive plan, and or done the implementation for the plan. And I've also done some consulting as well on comprehensive plans. So I have a lot of experience with it, yes.
Alisa, you are a Belmont resident like me. Why does this matter? Why is this important? Why should residents know about this?
I think as, you know, as the overall charge of the plan is to create the, you know, not create, but, you know, create a vision for the future. So, and not just, I mean, not just 2050, but all the steps we want to take along the way, because obviously we can't get to the vision we have for 2050 without making, you know, taking action along the way. So I think it's important to have a coordinated vision, because I think it's very easy for each department and each interest to get very siloed. But as we know, there's overlapping interests. You can't have economic development if nobody lives here. Nobody's going to live here if it's not an interesting town to be in, doesn't have good facilities. So it's all interrelated. So I think a comprehensive plan really brings that all together under one roof, so to speak, so that everybody has the same understanding and the same vision of where we're headed.
I think Alisa said it so well when she talked about how it brings it all together, because all these different chapters, they're their own domain, but they are interconnected and they each contribute or are, contributing to each other. I think the plan also is something that can guide decision-making on the part of leadership. It reflects community values, which we hope it will, and it can lead to enhancing quality of life for residents. So I think there's a lot of reasons to be involved.
I want to thank you both for being guests on News Now today.
Well, Joanna, thanks for having us. Appreciate it.
Yes, thank you.
This was very informative. Thank you for tuning in, everyone. Until next time.